Next on Currents News, New York Cardinal Timothy Dolan is hiring a former prosecutor to help the Archdiocese handle the clerical sex abuse crisis. The full story is next.
Thousands of clerics and lay leaders are gathering for the V Encuentro, a national conference to strengthen the Hispanic ministry in the Catholic Church. I'm Tim Harfman and I'm standing by in Texas.
A devout Christian jogging on the streets of Washington, D.C. is brutally murdered. I'll have the latest on that story. Plus, it's been a year to the day since life changed in Puerto Rico. An update on conditions now after Hurricane Maria. The news starts right now.
Many of our people and our priests are calling it the summer of hell.
Cardinal Timothy Dolan is taking action, promising an independent review of how the church handles clerical sex abuse cases. Good evening, everyone. I'm Liz Faublas. Cardinal Dolan has picked an acclaimed former judge to dig into church files, find any problems, and to hold his feet to the fire. The move comes after a recent announcement from New York's Attorney General that her office is investigating all of the state's dioceses. Currents News' Michelle Powers is here with details. Michelle, what can you tell us?
Liz, this summer the Catholic Church has been plagued by headline after headline about the sex abuse scandal. The avalanche of devastating news has left Cardinal Dolan praying for an end to the heat.
Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
In the wake of the Theodore McCarrick scandal, the Pennsylvania grand jury report, and the controversy surrounding Archbishop Carlo Vigano's letter, Cardinal Timothy Dolan is at a loss for words.
This has left our people bewildered, frustrated, and angry, our good and faithful priests demoralized, and us bishops somber and contrite. Autumn can't come fast enough.
The leader of the Archdiocese of New York called the past season the summer of hell, in which he said little and mostly listened, concluding that what people want most out of the church hierarchy is accountability, transparency, and action. The prelate warns that bishops are losing trust.
If I lose the trust of my people in this community, I don't have much left.
Meet Judge Barbara Jones, a former prosecutor and federal judge, now the Archdiocese of New York special counsel and independent reviewer, appointed by Cardinal Dolan. She is being promised complete independence and unfettered access, even at the local parish level, to review the second largest archdiocese in the U.S., procedures and protocols for handling sexual abuse.
I certainly see a robust infrastructure in place with the Archdiocese. But my job now will be to evaluate the effectiveness of the existing programs and policies in that infrastructure.
It was the current protocol the Archdiocese of New York has in place that uncovered charges against Theodore McCarrick. Still, Cardinal Dolan says that investigation and all of its implications are not yet over.
What we have to do is get to the bottom of the McCarrick affair. How could a man continue to rise in the church with a background like that?
Cardinal Dolan called that a darn good question, Liz.
Michelle, some other questions there. Did the Cardinal make any recommendations of how exactly the church can get to the bottom of the McCarrick case?
Yes, Cardinal Dolan thinks that an apostolic visitation and on-the-scene investigation by Vatican officials that includes lay people could be particularly effective. He said the bishops proposed that to the Holy See, and now we just have to wait.
All right, Michelle, thank you so much for that report. Nationwide, America's bishops are launching a new campaign to tackle the sex abuse crisis. As Melissa Butts reports from the Vatican, the bishops are disclosing several key points to the plan days after their meeting with the Pope.
The USCCB is setting up concrete steps to help victims, both within the church and within the community. One of the most important will be a confidential phone and internet hotline, as the bishops have asked the people of God to keep them accountable.
Thank you so much for receiving us.
After meeting with Pope Francis last week, the U.S. Catholic bishops have approved a third-party reporting system for complaints of sexual abuse. It's one of the steps the administrative committee has taken in response to the recent sexual abuse scandal findings. The USCCB stated that the phone and internet hotline will confidentially receive complaints of sexual abuse of minors and adults by bishops, and those complaints will be directed to ecclesiastical and civil authorities. Additionally, the Bishops' Committee on Canonical Affairs and Church Governance will set up policies for those bishops who've been removed from their position or have resigned. They will also set up a code of conduct for bishops when hearing complaints of abuse or negligence. Finally, they've asked lay experts, law enforcement, and social services to launch a full investigation of the allegations surrounding Archbishop McCarrick. The USCCB have pledged to care for victims and to allow genuine concern and care for victims replace the fear of scandal. They also stated that to anyone who's been abused, never hesitate to also contact local law enforcement. If you don't feel comfortable for any reason with the church providing help, your diocese can connect you with appropriate community services. The bishops are hoping to get these initiatives underway as soon as possible, stating, and I quote, "This is only the beginning." At the Vatican, Melissa Butts, Currents News. Back to you in New York, Liz.
All right, Melissa, thank you so much. In the Brooklyn Diocese, there are a number of very important measures in place to identify and prevent abuse. Under the leadership of Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio, the Office of Victim Assistance has been established to help individuals who come forward with allegations of abuse. The office provides many resources, including counseling and referrals for therapy. Also, every employee of the diocese, including students, undergoes mandatory training designed to spot the signs of abuse and how to stop it. The bishop meets with survivors and listens to them carefully. One result of those talks is the annual Mass of Hope and Healing in the diocese with Bishop DiMarzio presiding. The diocese also has a toll-free and confidential sexual abuse reporting line. That number is 888-634-4499. And for even more information, go to the Diocese of Brooklyn's website, dioceseofbrooklyn.org, and click on Protecting Our Children. Well, the church in America has been anticipating this moment for a long time, the start of the 5th National Encuentro. Catholics from around the country are assembling in Texas for a summit that will have a major long-term impact on the U.S. church. Currents News' Tim Harfman is standing by at the Encuentro. Tim.
Liz, this national conference has been years in the making. Now, thousands of Catholics, including over 100 bishops, are representing 165 dioceses. And their goal is to strengthen the Hispanic ministry in the church. Catholics wait anxiously to check into the national summit. As the line stretches down the hall, this group is first. They drove 16 hours from Mobile, Alabama.
We want to be here to, support our Hispanic community and be that voice that, our Archdiocese of Mobile needs.
And nearly 3,000 other Catholics from across the United States want to be a voice for their communities too. They're gathering at this national 5th Encuentro, or Encounter, to address the needs of nearly 30 million Hispanic Catholics in the U.S.
How can we evangelize better our people, the Hispanics in particular, and also to listen to the concerns.
These representatives first answered those questions in their own parishes and dioceses, then at regional Encuentro conferences. Now on the national level, they'll discuss the challenges Hispanics face in the U.S. Catholic Church.
More formation programs at every level. Our people need that desperately, okay? And the second is to create more welcoming parishes and communities. People need to see that they are welcome and they really are an integral part of the community.
Sometimes we feel like we separate. Either we are a Catholic, but we feeling like American on one side and Latino or from other countries on different spots, different sides.
But one of many topics will be how to unite the divided communities.
Giving classes and trying to do more bilingual masses, trying to incorporate the American culture to participate even in our big events.
And tonight's opening session includes a welcome from the President of the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, Cardinal Daniel DiNardo, and the keynote speaker is the Pope's ambassador to the United States, Archbishop Christophe Pierre. In Grapevine, Texas, Tim Harfman, Currents News. Liz, back to you.
All right, thank you so much, Tim. The editor-in-chief of the tablet and Nuestra Voz, Jorge Dominguez, is also standing by at the Encuentro in Texas, and he joins us now. Jorge, thank you so much. Listen, we just heard from Tim about all the activity taking place, and this is just day one. Now, there are several people participating in this national conference. How are they chosen? Is there a selection process?
Oh yes, I mean this process has been going on for 2 years. It started at the parish level, and at the parishes they elected the delegates to the diocese Encuentro, and then the different dioceses elected delegates to the regional Encuentro, and the different regions of the country elected representative to this Encuentro, the national Encuentro. So yes, it has been a long process of selection.
Now, Jorge, how is this year's encounter different from others held in the past, especially in terms of expectations?
Well, Liz, it's what I call the numbers and the meaning. The numbers are staggering. I mean, 40% of Catholics in the United States are Hispanic. 50% are Hispanic if you consider the millennials. 60% if you consider people under 18 years old. So the numbers itself are staggering, but the question is, what is the meaning of those numbers? I mean, are the Hispanic ready to be half of the church in the United States? Is the leadership ready to propose ideas? And I think this is the great expectation here. It's not just the numbers, but what are we capable of doing? Are we ready to assume the role that we have to assume in the leadership of the church of the United States?
Jorge, have people actually shared with you what this meeting means to them?
Yes, when you talk to people, the first thing, Liz, it is a celebration. You see the people in the line to get their credentials. You see the people in the exhibits. It's a festivity. It's a family reunion for the Hispanic Catholics around the United States. But at the same time, they feel privileged to be here, to be participating in this moment that they really consider historical, for the reason that I was commenting before, because this is like a coming of age. This is a big moment for the Hispanics in the United States. The great question is, are we ready? This is the question that we have to answer here.
Really quickly, Jorge, Pope Francis himself, Catholic, born in Latin America, has he had an effect on the Encuentro?
I think so, Liz. When Pope Francis came here, he talked about the hopes and the anguish of the Hispanics in the United States. But at the same time, Liz, he himself, his own presence here was a way to say, listen, hey, the Hispanic church, the Latin American church now elected the Pope in Rome. The Pope in Rome is from Latin America. So you are also called to do something like that in the United States. You are supposed to fill the role of some role in the leadership. You cannot be half of the church without being half of the leadership. And I think the visit of the Pope was very important to create that conscience about the Hispanic Catholics in the United States.
All right, thank you so much, Jorge. Of course, we will stay in touch as the Encuentro progresses to get some more insight from you. And you all be sure to look for Jorge's articles on the Encuentro in the latest editions of the Tablet and Nuestra Voz. The Supreme Court nomination of Judge Brett Kavanaugh could be voted on next week. He's been embroiled in controversy since Christine Blasey Ford accused him of a sexual assault that happened several decades ago. The Senate scheduled public testimony about the incident from both Kavanaugh and Ford on Monday. Her attorneys say she will testify, but not Monday. There's a Friday deadline for her to agree to appear before the Senate. Otherwise, a vote on Kavanaugh is expected to proceed. There's a lot more news headed your way.
There is a hole in our hearts that will never be replaced.
Friends mourning the death of their friend, a devout Christian out for a jog in Washington, D.C. Shocking video shows what happened after she was stabbed. The rebuilding of Puerto Rico 1 year to the day after Hurricane Maria. I'll talk with a priest just back from the island. And if you think scam cell phone calls are bad now, an explosion is coming soon. Do you have a story idea? Something happening in your parish we should know about? We want to hear from you. Keep this email handy, newstips@thesalesmedia.org. We'll be right back. A devout Christian has been brutally murdered in the nation's capital, and police have a suspect in custody. Wendy Martinez was stabbed to death while out jogging. Friends are heartbroken.
Wendy should have been shopping for her wedding dress on Friday.
Family and friends grieving the loss of 35-year-old Wendy Martinez. The devout Christian and avid runner, newly engaged, was stabbed while jogging last Tuesday evening in Northwest Washington, D.C.
We believe a single assailant stabbed her. The stab wounds were very serious in nature.
Police releasing this surveillance video capturing the moments before Martinez was attacked. Seen here cautiously looking over her shoulder as she ran. Martinez eventually wanders into a nearby Chinese restaurant. Footage from inside shows Martinez begging strangers for help before succumbing to multiple stab wounds.
Very chilling, like my heart rate has gone up.
Police immediately began searching for this man, believed to be Martinez's murderer.
Sufficient probable cause was established, and this morning we arrested and charged 23-year-old Anthony Crawford of Northwest D.C. with first-degree murder while armed.
And so it's so sad that we're having to be hit with that reality that the world isn't always safe.
And tearful loved ones who once waited with anticipation for a blushing bride to walk down the aisle of her church must now come together to plan her funeral.
There is a hole in our hearts that will never be replaced.
The police chief, Peter Newsham, said there's nothing to suggest the victim and suspect knew each other. He described the stabbing as an unprovoked attack. Almost 3,000 people died and more than 500,000 homes were damaged. Most of the island of Puerto Rico was without power for months, and 365 days later, there's still much to be done. Local churches will have vigils this evening to remember the victims of the devastation. It has been 1 year since Hurricane Maria barreled through Puerto Rico, where today some parts of the island are still recovering. Father Eric Cruz teamed up with Catholic Charities to visit Puerto Rico this summer, and he joins us now. Father Eric, thank you so much for being with us. I really appreciate it. You just returned back from the U.S. territory. We said it ahead of this, can't believe September 20th, a year ago, is when the devastation began. How has the rebuilding of the island gone in the 12 months since?
The rebuilding is slow, given the scope of the devastation and the concentration of it being in the mountainous regions, the belly of the island, where if you're flying into the major cities, San Juan, obviously, you get a taste of it, but there's no sense of the devastation island-wide, economically, personally, or family. So it's going slow. It can be frustrating. People are still recovering and dealing and coping. And we're talking from the kids to the elderly, to those who are in those villages who are just now really regaining contact with the outside world, if you will.
Given the media coverage that we've received over the course of the 12 months, are you ever really prepared for what you see when you set foot on the U.S. territory?
No, you never are. The pictures never capture a reality. It's an old saying that we have, right? You have to see it to believe it. And even when you're there, you see it, you still can't believe it, because it's beyond imagination.
And we talk about perspective, as you said in your first answer there. There's been a lot of controversy over Maria's death toll. The numbers have ranged from a few dozen, listed in the days after the storm, to nearly 3,000 now. I want to know from you, personal perspective, what are the people there saying? What is their perspective?
Their perspective, those who talk about the quantity, is that it's more than 3,000. If you want to look at academic sources that are rather neutral, objective, looking at their base figures, where it was to what it is now. So we tend to go with that point of view as those numbers being true and accurate. We're not privy to the insider formulas, if you will, but the people, one death is enough. On a scope of this across an island nation, 3,000 people have come to terms with the number.
And I want to talk about how the people are dealing with accountability. Calamity in Puerto Rico, its infrastructure, especially the power grid that wasn't maintained before Maria. What are the expectations now? What must the government do now to prevent this kind of tragedy from happening again?
I think the government has got to step forward, both federal, United States mainland, island governor, mayors across that island. You know, you really have to just sit down and start talking and organizing.
Yeah.
Open up the lines of communication, and as difficult and challenging as it might be, put aside your party agenda politics and talk about what's best now and into the future. How do we set up an electrical grid, if that's going to be your focus? Who are the experts in this? And not try to get the cheapest, quickest contract on the ground that in a month is going to fail.
Father Eric, I have to get this in the 30 seconds we have left. One of the biggest concerns now are the people that left and may not want to return. What would be, what would just be an encouraging factor to encourage them to go back home and not only live there, but help with the rebuilding?
You're part of the solution. You have a voice, you have a say, you have your own personal resources and interest, the lineage of your family and your history there, but you are an essential cog, if you will. You're an essential voice and presence to what happens. You have to help and be part of your own destiny on the island, personally and communitively, and show them that you're not helpless nor hopeless. You have a lot to offer, and there are a lot of people who will walk with you to do that.
Which you have done and which Catholic Charities has done. Thank you so much, Father Eric. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
In today's age, most of the phone calls we get are from robots. A new report by First Orient says nearly half of all cell phone calls next year will come from scammers. The firm projects a massive increase from more than 29% this year to 45% by early 2019. The Federal Communications Commission says Americans receive about 2.4 billion unwanted automated calls every month. Still to come on Currents News, the amazing change in the blood of a saint and how a cardinal reacts. And volunteers are delivering emergency supplies and much needed hope to people in the Carolinas. We'll be right back. A Naples Cardinal fainted while celebrating a local Italian miracle. Cardinal Crescenzio Seppi yesterday was honoring a miracle, the liquefaction of a saint's blood, when the prelate suddenly fell ill. Cardinal Seppi refused to leave the altar but was too sick to carry the vials of blood to the crowds outside. The blood belonged to Saint Januarius, a Naples bishop and martyr. It is unclear why the cardinal felt faint. Thousands are struggling to recover after Hurricane Florence, but help will soon be on its way. The Red Cross is providing trucks of food with the help of volunteers from around the country.
We're all working together to make sure that we can alleviate as much of the suffering as we possibly can. People need hope.
The Red Cross continues to work together with these volunteers to bring essential goods to those affected by Hurricane Florence in the Carolinas. That is Currents News. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Liz Faublas. Please set your DVR to record this program so that you never miss it, because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.